Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of the PixelCast. I am the founder of PixelFest, Jeremy Alessi, and this is episode 15. We are continuing to grow through love of games, and as you can see in the background this week, I have Tetris 99. So on the show last week, I mentioned that my wife had surgery. She was laid up for a while. She's still recovering. It's been a tough recovery. But I decided to pull out Tetris 99 and pick that game up for her because she used to enjoy playing Tetris, and since she didn't have much to do, she was starting to get bored. I said, hey, why don't you try this new Tetris that came out? And she played it a few times, and it wasn't really her cup of tea because, as we talked about on the show last week, sometimes as games get updated throughout the years, things change. And specifically, one of the things that changes is that the developers actually make the games easier to play. But if you're an older player, that can kind of bother you. And so some of the new features that they added to the game, I think, were not so great for my wife. She was, I was able to turn the ghost piece off and things like that, but it just wasn't the same game that she used to play. And so she only played it a handful of times and put it down, unfortunately. Now, I, on the other hand, enjoyed the game. I can admit it's not the same game that it used to be. It is smoother. It is easier. It follows your intent better, but at the same time, it also kind of feels like you're cheating when you're playing the game. So that's a consequence of the developers continuing to improve on something, or subjectively speaking, maybe you don't consider it improvement. But my experience with this game has been, pretty good. We played the split screen mode. I played the marathon mode. I played the 150 line mode, which was, it proved to be a challenge for like a round or two before I hit it. And then I got used to the speed of the game and whatnot. And now I'm getting into the 999 line mode and trying to see how far I could get. So I certainly recommend it. If you're a Tetris fan, this is a great iteration of the game to pick up. It also has this like 99 player mode where I guess you can sort of throw things at each other and whatnot. I haven't played that a whole lot. It seems like there's an online version and then one where you can play against 99 computer opponents. So pretty neat though, and I think it was only $10 to unlock the whole thing. So the version of the game that I was playing was the Switch Online multiplayer version. Now you can actually play that, download that and play it for free. If you want to get a single player mode or two player split screen mode, then you have to pay. So, but I think well worth the price of entry, and it sort of piqued my interest in Tetris again. On the show a few episodes back, maybe actually 5, 6, 7 episodes now, we've done, I think it's the 15th episode, like I said, so we've done quite a few. I did mention that the story of Alexei Pajitnov and how they brought Tetris out of the Soviet Union. As the other guy's name was Hank Rogers, who owns, I think, the Tetris company now. But they have a fascinating story of how, this coordination between Nintendo of Japan, Nintendo of America, the Soviet Union, Alexei Pajitnov, Hank Rogers, and really crazy story about how Tetris was brought to the rest of us, throughout the world. And it's one of those games that is still just as good today as it was back then. And I think you could, sort of switch versions, vice versa. Go back, play an old version of the game, play the new version of the game. Both of them are going to be great. It's just one of those titles that seems to be timeless. And there are very few of those because obviously with video games, one aspect of them is that they're super evolutionary, and we keep hitting new resolutions of experience in the medium, and that tends to make us frown upon older games while we look to the newer titles, and they're always flashier and smoother and easier and capture our intent better and whatnot. I'm not sure if they're going to be diminishing returns to that as I get a little older. I feel it, but that could just be my nostalgia speaking. Nevertheless, Tetris again is one of those games that is just timeless. It doesn't really, I think it ages well, and so having a good time with that. Now I'm going to get on with a little bit of news. This is going to be a quick episode. First headline here I thought was really, really great. Apply now to participate in the GDC 2020 Low Income Pass Lottery. Obviously, Game Developers Conference is super expensive. I went once. I believe I paid about $800 for my ticket, and that didn't include my flight and my hotel room, so it was something that was easily in the $1,500 to $2,000 range when I went. They have since introduced indie passes and some other things where you can save a little bit of money. Airbnb is around now, so you can get a cheap Airbnb instead of a super expensive hotel. But the pass, if you want to go for an all-access pass to GDC, is generally speaking still going to be pretty expensive. I think the minimum that you could pay is like $300. So this is a way to go for free, and I think this is great. Hopefully some folks out there want to go. I think it's a wonderful experience. The Moscone Center is amazing. San Francisco is a beautiful city if you've never been. It's been about 10 years for me. Some people say it's not as nice now. Over the last 5 years, it's suffered a little bit, but I'm sure it's still a fantastic time out there. So this is something I think to put on your radar. Especially if you haven't gone because you've said, I don't have the money. Go ahead and apply to this now. It's I think, a great opportunity. Pokemon Go developer Niantic raised $100,000 for STEM programs in 2019. So this is some more good news, a little bit giving back by these companies that are making billions of dollars in the video game industry. And of course, I think video games and STEM, they just go hand in hand. You're writing code, you're doing mathematics, you're programming physics, and so many other things when you're doing a game. And so it just ties completely in with STEM education. And, good on Niantic for contributing. GameStop plans to wind down Nordic presence, close more stores to cut costs. So we've had several, I think, sad headlines, quite frankly, for GameStop since we've been doing the show. I think back in 2007, they had predicted that 2020 was really when they were going to start feeling the switch from brick and mortar retail into digital distribution. That's when their business was really going to start being hit hard, and it looks like they were correct in that prediction. And this is something that's sad, and I think it's probably just heavy nostalgia for me as a kid and growing up. Of course, it was always going to stores for games. We didn't have digital distribution at the time, and I still, whenever I go by a mall or something like that, I will always go in and peruse a GameStop and see what's new. By and large, now I always know what's on the shelves because of the way our media works today. It's not the same as it was back in, say, the even late 80s, I think, or in the 90s. You would go into a GameStop, or back then, like I said, Electronics Boutique or Babbage's. That's what it was. I think those two merged, ultimately become GameStop. But you would go in and you would find new games on the shelves that you had never heard of. You didn't know that they were coming out. They weren't in the video gaming magazines. And so you could quite often go in and be very surprised by what you would find on the shelves. And that's totally different from today's world, where it's just totally predicted and everything is known. To some extent, I can say it's not as much fun now because you don't get those nice surprises. But these shops in particular, they would get stuff that you hadn't heard of before, and that was there was a discovery aspect to going into them. And so, of course, all that is built in and nostalgic to my heart. And digital distribution's here, though, and it's not going away. I don't know if GameStop will find a way to sort of mix in with the digital distro stuff, or or maybe they'll just become like a gaming sort of paraphernalia type store. I don't know. We'll see where this goes, but just more sad news for them. Google refuses to budge on Play Store fees after Epic asked for Fortnite exemption. So, obviously, Epic is huge right now with Fortnite, and they have been huge for years with this game. This game generates billions of dollars, and it probably generates a handsome amount of money for Google and Apple and any of the other platform holders that are out there. So it looks like Epic said, "Hey Google, we're making you a lot of money. We'd like to get a little bit of that back." And the way this headline looks to me is that Epic is very big. That's a multi-billion-dollar company, but Google is a lot bigger, and Google shut them down. So, well, let's see if this progresses any further. Clash of the Titans type stuff. Resident Evil 2 Remake has passed 5 million sales. I think this is great news. This game looked wonderful to me when it came out. I almost picked it up. I was just very busy at the time, and I also had, again, nostalgia. Nostalgia runs so strong within me now. I just wanted to go back and play the original PlayStation Resident Evil 2 instead of picking up the remake for some reason. But this game looks like it's one of the better remakes that's out there. The original game, by comparison, is pretty janky. The graphics and everything have been updated. You have, obviously, the real-time camera and all that, and it looks like a lot of players agree that this is a fantastic remake. So it's nice to see Capcom doing well with it. Best of 2019, how GoldenEye 007 set a new standard for video game AI. I believe this was a video, and a pretty good one at that. Whenever I see GoldenEye 007 developer blogs, vlogs, anything, I always go and check them out because there were so many things that this game did well, and there's so much that we as developers can learn from it. One of the most fascinating things about 007, though, is it was developed by a small team in England, I think like 10 people or less. The team had 3 years to work on this game, and there was no pressure because the movie had already come out. So the license to the game was sort of like a latent license where they just didn't have to synchronize with the movie. And then the team that was working on it was pretty new. In fact, only 2 people on the team had ever made a video game before. So it was a team completely new essentially to making video games, but they had a low pressure situation. Management wasn't breathing down their necks to get this game out in time with the movie, and they just were self-determined, and they made a really fantastic game. This game's a classic. You go back and play it today, if you're a newer gamer, you might have that effect where you feel like the game doesn't follow your intent as well. There's that give and take between the way new things are designed and old things, and this is one that maybe the resolution of experience hampers the experience slightly, but I think for the most part it's still a really great game. At least to me it is. And so obviously this is something to check out. Any of the GDC Vault videos about this game, all that stuff, they're just all gold. And that's it for the news today. Now, as I mentioned, this is going to be a short episode. I was supposed to have Vince White on the show today. One of the things I want to do, in addition to doing the PixelFest Devs meetups where I interview local developers that are coming out there, I wanted to get a few more episodes where I'm talking to other developers, other creatives, other engineers, whoever can get on the show. So Vince and I have wanted to do a podcast together for a long time. We've been collaborating, like I said, I've said on the show, I think for about 7 years. Unfortunately, he had, I think, someone in his family was in the hospital, and he was up all night, and so he was going to do the show anyway, but sort of as we were leading up to it, he said, I'm feeling pretty tired. Might be better to do another time. So Vince is going to come back on the show another time. He's going to be great. We'll have a fantastic discussion, and that's something to look forward to. In other news, things are continuing to move forward with the festival for 2020. We also have a new pixelfest.org being developed. That's something that I don't know if I've mentioned that on the show before. Right now there's a placeholder if you go to pixelfest.org. That's the WordPress site had, there was some glitch or bug with WordPress and destroyed the site. So I had to put up a placeholder. But we have a new custom built site that's coming up. That's something where you're going to be able to log in. You're going to be able to get all the code and samples and everything that we talk about on the show. You'll be able to watch the show. You'll be able to use some tools to connect with other people and build your projects. So I'm really excited about that. And I feel like there was one other thing I wanted to mention. Oh yes, we have a PixelFest Devs meetup next Tuesday. That'll be from 6 to 8 out at Keagan's in Virginia Beach. So if you up to this point have been avoiding PixelFest Devs meetups, now is your chance. So next Tuesday, and what is today? Today's the 11th, so December should be December 18th. Hopefully I have that right, but next Wednesday, December 18th, give or take if I'm wrong on the date, at Keagan's out in Virginia Beach. So be there or be square. And so that's going to wrap it up. Here we are at 13 minutes. Sorry for the short episode. Life has been crazy since my wife has had this surgery. She's doing really well though. The recovery is going good, but there's still it's just a lot right now. So thanks for tuning in to the PixelCast. This has been episode 15. Again, I am Jeremy Alessi, founder of PixelFest, and let's keep growing through love of games. Thank you so much, and have a good night.